Good morrow, scholars. Welcome to another so-called Let's Read. I know that some of my viewers back in the day really disliked my use of the words, but let's face it, that's basically what this is. It's no different than a Let's Play. Anyway, it's been a while. So I thought I'd go over the final non-canon series of books that were in the Star Wars EU back in the day. Of course, they were canon back then. Anyway, let's not get into that. That's a whole can of worms that we do not need. Alright, so this is Star Wars Fate of the Jedi Outcast by Aaron Alston? Huh. The reason I'm going with the final book series in the old EU is because there's just so much to go over in the old canon that it would be impossible to go through them all on a single channel. And if you guys are in any way interested in the stories back then, but you don't have the books, or you just want to see me goof along as I try and read, let me know down in the comments. I'll track them down, do at the very least some minor readings. It should be a lot of fun. But yeah, let's go over the back of the book real quick, because this is the final one, and there's a lot that you've missed if you haven't read anything. Does a new start for the Galactic Alliance mark the beginning of the fall of the Jedi Order? Fate of the Jedi. After a violent civil war and the devastation wrought by the now fallen Darth Caedus, it's how I always pronounced it. I think some people say Caedus. It just doesn't look right. The Galactic Alliance is in crisis. From all corners, politicians, power brokers, and military leaders converge on Coruscant for a crucial summit to restore order and determine the future of the unified worlds. But even more critical, and far more uncertain, is the future of the Jedi. In a shocking move, Chief of State Natasi Dalla orders the arrest of Luke Skywalker for failing to prevent Jacen Solo's turn to the dark side and his subsequent reign of terror as a Sith Lord. But it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't stumble. I stumbled on the word stumble. Where was I? But it's only the first blow in an anti-Jedi backlash fueled by a hostile government and suspicious public. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Negotiating his freedom in exchange for his exile from the Jedi Order. Yeah, there we go. Luke, with his son Ben at his side, sets out to unravel the shocking truth behind Jacen Solo's corruption and downfall. But the secrets Luke uncovers may bring his quest, and his life as he knows it, to a sudden end. And all the while, another Jedi Knight, consumed by madness, is headed to Coruscant on a fearsome mission that could devastate the entire galaxy. But yeah, just to give you a quick little glance at just how many books to go over, this is just the main timeline. Each of those lines is a different book. And that's just the main timeline. Okay, we don't need to go over this. Ooh. The darkness was eternal, all-powerful, unchangeable. She stared into it, unblinking and unafraid. She was determined that it would not claim her. She had resisted it these many years. She would resist it forever, never despairing. It was unchangeable. But change would take place. The Force said so. Chapter 1. Galactic Alliance Diplomatic Shuttle, High Coruscant Orbit. Do you say Coruscant or Coruscant? Coruscant? I don't know. One by one, the stars overhead began to disappear, swallowed by some enormous darkness interposing itself from above and behind the shuttle. Sharply pointed at its most forward position, broadening behind... The flood of blackness advanced, blotting out more and more of the unblinking starfield, until darkness was all there was to see. Then all across the length and breadth of the ominous-shaped lights came on, blue and white running lights, tiny red hatch and security lights, sudden glows from within transparent steel viewports, One large rectangular whiteness, uh, limbed, I don't know, by atmosphere shields. The lights showed the vast triangle to be the underside of an Imperial Star Destroyer, painted black, forbidding a moment ago, and now comparatively cheerful in its proper running configuration. It was the Gilead Pelion, which you guys might remember in my book series or in my series on Heir to the Empire. This takes place 40 years after the Battle of Yavin. I probably should have mentioned that sooner. Newly arrived from the Imperial Remnant, and its officers clearly knew how to put on a show. Jaina Solo, that's Han and Leia's daughter in the old canon, sitting with the others in the dimly lit passenger compartment of the government VIP shuttle, watched the entire display through the overhead transparent steel canopy and laughed out loud. The Bothan in the sumptuously padded chair next to hers gave her a curious look. His mottled red and tan fur twitched, either from suppressed irritation or embarrassment at Jaina's outburst. "What do you find so amusing?" "Oh, both the obviousness of it and the skill with which it was performed. It's so very. You used to think of us as dark and scary, but now we're just your stylish allies." Jaina lowered her voice so that her next comment would not carry to the passengers in the seats behind. "The press will love it. The image will play on the hollow news broadcasts constantly. Mark my words. Ee." Jaina tilted her head, considering. Oh, no, I missed the line. Sorry. Was that little show a jagged fell detail? Jaina tilted her head, considering. "I don't know. He could have come up with it, but he usually doesn't spend his time planning displays or events. When he does, though, they're usually pretty. ... effective." The shuttle rose toward the Gilead Pelion's main landing bay. In moments, it was through the square atmosphere barrier shield and drifting sideways to land on the deck nearby. The landing place was clearly marked. Hundreds of beings, most wearing gray Imperial uniforms, or the distinctive white armor of the Imperial stormtrooper, waited in the bay, and the one circular spot where none stood was just the right size for the Galactic Alliance shuttle. Again, sorry if I stutter, mumble, or get distracted. The passengers rose as the shuttle settled into place. The Bothan smoothed his tunic. Gosh darn it. A cheerful blue decorated with a gold and silver pattern suggesting claws. Huh, that sounds cool. "Time to go to work. You won't let me get killed, will you?" Jaina let her eyes widen. "Is that what I was supposed to be doing here?" she asked in droll tones. "I should have brought my lightsaber." The Bothan offered a long-suffering sigh and turned toward the exit. They descended the shuttle's boarding ramp, with no duties required of her other than to keep alert and be the Jedi face at this preliminary meeting. Jaina was able to stand back and observe. She was struck with the unreality of it all. Close enough. The niece and daughter of three of the most famous enemies of the Empire during the First Galactic Civil War of a few decades earlier, she was now witness to events that might bring the Galactic Empire, or Imperial Remnant, as it was called everywhere outside its own borders, into the Galactic Alliance on a lasting basis. What are the odds? Oh, the irony. And at the center of the plan was the man, flanked by Imperial officers who now approached the Bothan. Slightly under average size, though towering well above Jaina's diminutive height, she takes after her mother. He was dark-haired, with a trim beard and mustache that gave him a rakish look, and was handsome in a way that became more pronounced when he glowered. I think that's how you pronounce it. A scar on his forehead ran up to his hairline and seemed to continue as a lock of white hair from that point. He wore expensive but subdued black civilian garments, neck to toe, that would be inconspicuous anywhere on Coruscant, but stood out in sharp relief to the gray and white uniforms, white armor, and colorful Alliance clothes surrounding him. What is wrong with me today? He had one moment to glance at Jaina. I think that's how you pronounce it. Jaina? Let's not go with that. Jaina? I don't know. The look probably appeared neutral to onlookers, but for her it carried just a twinkle of humor, a touch of exasperation that the two of them had to put up with all these delays. Then an Alliance functionary, notable for his blandness, made introductions. Imperial Head of State, the Most Honorable Jagged Fell, may I present Senator Tired Drelai Bathawi, there we go, Head of State Unification Preparations Committee. Jagged Fell took the senator's hand. I am pleased to be working with you. I'm delighted to meet you, Chief of State. Dala sends her compliments and looks forward to meeting you when you make planetfall. Sorry. Jag nodded. And now, I believe, protocol insists that we open a bottle or a dozen of wine and make some preliminary discussion of security, introduction protocols, and so on. Fortunately about the wine, and regrettably about everything else, you are correct. At the end of 2 full standard hours, Jaina knew from regular surreptitious consultations of her chrono watch. Jag was able to convince the senator and his retinue to accept a tour of the Gilid Pilion. He was also able to request a private consultation with the sole representative of the Jedi Order present. Wink, wink. I think that technically counts as a spoiler. Moments later, the gray-walled conference room was empty of everyone but Jag and Jaina. Jag glanced toward the door. Security seal, access limited to Jagged Fell and Jedi Jaina Solo. Voice identification activate. The door hissed in response as it sealed. Then Jag returned his attention to Jaina. She let an expression of anger and accusation cross her face. Oh dear. You're not fooling anyone, Phil. You're planning for an Imperial invasion of Alliance space. This is so awkward for me. Jag nodded. I've been planning it for quite a while. Come here. She moved to him, settled into his lap, and was suddenly, but not unexpectedly, caught in his embrace. They kissed urgently and hungrily. See what I mean? Finally, Jaina drew back and smiled at him. This isn't going to be a routine part of your consultations with every Jedi. No, that would cause some trouble here and at home. But I actually do have business with the Jedi that does not involve the Galactic Alliance. At least not initially. What sort of business? Whether or not the Galactic Empire joins the Galactic Alliance, I think there ought to be an official Jedi presence in the Empire. A second temple, a branch, an offshoot, whatever, providing advice and insight to the head of state. And protection? He shrugged. Less of an issue. I'm doing all right. 2 years in this position and not dead yet. Emperor Palpatine went nearly 25 years. I guess that makes him my hero. Jaina snorted. Don't even say that in jest, Jag. If the Remnant doesn't join the Alliance, I'm not sure the Jedi can have a presence without Alliance approval. The Order still keeps its training facility for youngsters. That's a weird thing to see in this series. In Happen space. And the Happens haven't rejoined. You sound annoyed. The Happens still giving you trouble? Let's not talk about that. Besides, moving the school back to Alliance space is just a matter of time, logistics, and finances. I don't know who's talking right now. Oh, okay. There's no question that it will happen. On the other hand, it's very likely that the government would withhold approval for a Jedi branch in the Remnant just out of spite if the Remnant doesn't join. Well, there's such a thing as an unofficial presence, and there's such a thing as rival schools, schismatic branches, and places for former Jedi to go when they can't be at the temple. Jaina smiled again. but now there was suspicion in her expression. "You just want to have this so I'll be assigned to come to the Remnant and set it up." "That's a motive, but not the only one. Remember, to the Moths and to a lot of Imperial population, the Jedi have been boogeymen since Palpatine died. At the very least, I don't want them to be inappropriately afraid of the woman I'm in love with." Jaina was silent for a moment. "Have we talked enough politics?" "I think so." "Good. That's sweet. At least somebody's happy. Sort of. Mostly? Anyway, Horn family quarters, not headquarters, never mind. It's their home. Khaled's dream vacation hostel. What is a hostel? Not hostile, a hostel. Anyway, Coruscant. Yawning, hair tousled, clad in a blue dressing robe, Valen Horn knew that he did not look anything like an experienced Jedi Knight. He looked like an unshaven, unkempt bachelor, which he also was. But here, in these rented quarters, there would be only family to see him, at least until he had breakfast, shaved, and dressed. The Horns did not live here, of course. His mother, Mirax, was the anchor for the immediate family, manager of a variety of interlinked businesses, trading, interplanetary finances, gambling, and recreation, and if rumors were true, still a little smuggling here and there. She maintained her home and business address in Corellia. Corran, her husband and Valen's father, was a Jedi Master, much of his life spent away on missions from the family. I don't know what I said. But his true home was where his heart resided, wherever Mirax lived. Valen and his sister Gisela, that sounds familiar, also Jedi, lived wherever their mission sent them, and also counted Mirax as the center of the family. Now Mirax had rented a temporary quarters on Coruscant, so the family could collect on one of its rare occasions, this time for the Unification Summit, where she and Corran would separately give depositions. Sorry. What is wrong today? Anyway, I just need to wake up. On the relationships among the Confederation states, the Imperial Remnant, and the Galactic Alliance as they related to trade and Jedi activities, Mirax had insisted that Valen and Gisela leave their temple quarters and stay with their parents while these events were taking place, and few forces in the galaxy could stand before her decision. Luke Skywalker certainly knew better than to try. Sorry. Moving from the refresher toward the kitchen and dining nook, Valen brushed a lock of brown hair out of his eyes and grinned. Much as he might put up a public show of protest, the independent young man who did not need parents to direct his actions or tell him where to sleep, he hardly minded. It was good to see family, and both Corran and Mirax were better cooks than the ones at the Jedi Temple. Probably. There was no sound of conversation from the kitchen, but there was some clattering of pans, so at least one of his parents must still be on hand. As he stepped from the hallway into the dining nook, Valen saw that it was his mother. Her back to him as she worked at the stove, he pulled a chair from the table and sat. "Good morning." Oh dear. A joke so early? Mirax did not turn to face him, but her tone was cheerful. "No morning is good. I come light years from Corellia to be with my family, and what happens? I have to keep Jedi hours to see them. Don't you know that I'm an executive? And a lazy one?" "I forgot." Valen took a deep breath, sampling the smells of breakfast. His mother was making hot cakes, Corellian style, Nerf sausage links on the side, and calf was brewing. For a moment, Valen was transported back to his childhood, to the family breakfasts that had been somewhat more common before the Yuzan Vong came. That's a series of aliens. We'll go over that in a separate video if you'd like. Just to go over some of the things you might be confused by if you don't know anything that happened before this, but after the movies. Where was I? Before Valen and Gisela had started down the Jedi path. I think that's a book. We're dead and Sella. Your father's up getting some backdoor information from other Jedi Masters for his deposition. Mirax pulled a plate from the cabinet and began sliding hotcakes and links onto it. Your sister left early and wouldn't say what she was doing, which I assume either means it's Jedi business and I can't know about it, or that she's seeing some man she doesn't want me to know about. Or both. Or both. Mirrex turned and moved closer to put the plate down before him. She set utensils beside it. The plate was heaped high with food, and Valen recoiled from it in mock horror. Stang! That's some slang? Yeah, that's the word. In the Star Wars universe, it's been popular in these books. Anyway, Stang, Mom. You're feeding your son, not a squadron of Gamorreans. Those are the pig guards at Jabba's palace. You remember. Let's see. Then he caught sight of his mother's face, and he was suddenly no longer in a joking mood. This wasn't his mother. Oh, the woman had Mirrex's features. She had the round face that admirers had called cute far more often than beautiful, much to Mirrex's. I've never been sure how to pronounce it. Chagrin. Chagrin? Chagrin. I don't know. She had Mirrex's generous, curving lips that smiled so readily and expressively, and Mirrex's bright, lively brown eyes. She had Mirrex's hair, a glossy black with flecks of gray, warm shoulder length to fit readily under a pilot's helmet, even though she piloted far less often these days. She was Mirrex to every freckle and dimple, but she was not Mirrex. The woman, whoever she was, caught sight of Valen's confusion. Something wrong? No. Stunned, Valen looked down at his plate. He had to think logically, correctly, and fast. He might be in grave danger right now, though the Force currently gave him no indication of imminent attack. The true Mirrex, wherever she was, might be in serious trouble, or worse. Valen tried in vain to slow his heart rate and speed up his thinking processes. Fact. Mirrex had been here, but had been replaced by an imposter. Presumably the real Mirrex was gone. Valen could not sense anyone but himself and the imposter in the immediate vicinity. The imposter had remained behind for some reason that had to relate to Valen, Gisela, or Corrin. It couldn't have been to capture Valen, as she could have done that with drugs or other methods while he slept. So the food was probably not drugged. Under not Mirrex's concerned gaze, he took a tentative bite of sausage and turned a reassuring smile he didn't feel toward her. Fact. Creating an imposter this perfect must have taken a fortune in money, an incredible amount of research, and a volunteer willing to let her features be permanently carved into the likeness of another's. There we go. Or perhaps this was a clone, raised and trained for the purpose of simulating Mirrex. Or maybe she was a droid, one of the very expensive, very rare human replica droids. Or maybe a shapeshifter. Whichever, the simulation was nearly perfect. Valen hadn't recognized the deception until what? What had tipped him off? He took another bite, not registering the sausage's taste or temperature, and maintained the face-hurting smile as he tried to recall the detail that had alerted him that this was not his mother. He couldn't figure it out. It was just an instant realization, too fleeting to remember, too overwhelming to reject. Would Corrin be able to see through the deception? Would Gisela? Surely they had to be able to. But what if they couldn't? Valen would accuse this woman and be thought insane. Were Corrin and Gisela even still at liberty? Still alive? At this moment, the not Mirrex's colleagues could be spiriting the two of them away with the true Mirrex. Or Corrin and Gisela could be lying, bleeding at the bottom of an access shaft, their lives draining away. Valen couldn't think straight. The situation was too overwhelming, the mystery too deep, and the only person here who knew the answers was the one who wore the face of his mother. This is getting sad. And scary. He stood, sending his chair clattering backward, and fixed the false Mirrex with a hard look. Just a moment. He dashed to his room. His lightsaber was still where he'd left it, on the nightstand beside his bed. He snatched it up and gave it a near instantaneous examination. Battery power was still optimal. There was no sign that it had been tampered with. He returned to the dining room with the weapon in hand. Not Mirax, clearly confused and beginning to look a little alarmed, stood by the stove, staring at him. Valen ignited the lightsaber, its snap hiss of an activation startlingly, there we go, loud, and held the point of the gleaming energy blade against the food on his plate. Hot cakes, shriveled and blackened from contact with the weapon's plasma. Valen gave not Mirax an approving nod. Flesh does the same thing under the same conditions, you know. Valen, what's wrong? You may address me as Jedi Horn. That's the last name. Anyway, you don't have the right to use my personal name. Valen swung the lightsaber around in a practice form, allowing the blade to come within a few centimeters of the glow rod fixture overhead, the wall, the dining table, and the woman with his mother's face. You probably know from your research that the Jedi don't worry much about amputations. Not Mirax shrank back away from him, both hands on the stove edge behind her. What? We know that a severed limb can readily be replaced by a prosthetic that looks identical to the real thing. Prosthetics offer sensation and do everything flesh can. They're ideal substitutes in every way, except for requiring maintenance. So we don't feel too badly when we have to cut off an arm or a leg off of a very bad person. But I assure you that that very bad person remembers the pain forever. Valen, I'm going to call your father now. Not Mirax sidled toward the blue bantha hide carry bag she had left at the side table. Valen positioned the tip of his lightsaber directly beneath her chin. At the distance of half a centimeter, its containing force field kept her from feeling any heat from the blade, but a slight twitch on Valen's part could maim or kill her instantly. She froze. No, you're not. You know what you are going to do instead? Not Mirax's voice wavered. There we go. What? You're going to tell me what you've done with my mother. The last several words emerged as a bellow. I'm not going to do that. Driven by fear and anger, Valen knew that he looked as angry as he sounded, but he could feel blood reddening his face. Could even see redness begin to suffuse everything in his vision. Let's see. What was I doing? I had an idea for his voice, but I can't think of who it was. Boy, no, that's too country. Put the blade down. I'll figure it out eventually. Anyway, those were not the woman's words. They came from behind. Valen spun, bringing his blade up to a defensive position. In the doorway stood a man, middle-aged, clean-shaven, his hair graying from brown. He was of below-average height, his eyes a startling green. He wore the brown robes of a Jedi. His hands were on his belt, his own lightsaber still dangling from it. He was Valen's father, Jedi Master Corran Horn, but he wasn't, any more than the woman behind Valen was Mirax Horn. Valen felt a wave of despair wash over him, both parents replaced. Odds were growing that the real Corran and Mirax were already dead, yet Valen's voice was soft when he spoke. They may have made you a virtual double for my father, but they can't have given you his expertise with the lightsaber. You don't want to do what you're thinking about, son. When I cut you in half, that's all the proof anyone will ever need that you're not the real Corran Horn. Valen lunged. Cool, under 30 minutes. It's been a while since I've had to do a reading, and I'm kind of glad. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I can't really offer anything right now without making this episode 40 minutes long. But any questions you have about stuff that happens in the book, be sure to let me know down in the comments. I'll answer all of them as best I can. The Yuuzhan Vong, real quick, were a species of aliens from outside the galaxy that invaded, the galaxy. And it was a very nasty affair. Led to a lot of deaths, a lot of people turning to the dark side, and stuff like that. For specifics, just ask me questions and I will do my best, or I will direct you where to go to find answers. And until next time, goodbye everybody. I had fun.